in our day-to-day life, emotions play a very important role in all aspects of human life, be it domestic life, professional life, your business life, social life, every aspect of life. Emotions are a very useful asset, provided you know how to emote. We touched upon yesterday a few aspects of emotions. Now, very often, our mind gets overpowered by negative emotion than positive emotion more often. So, we as human beings have got a choice. Only human beings enjoy the choice of action. No other animal, no other living being has got this ability to exercise the choice. Because of this choice of action, that is what makes human being the most powerful being on this face of the universe. The choice of action. Animals do not have it. They lead a beaten path. They don't have the choice. A tiger in the jungle, if there is no meat available, the tiger cannot survive on vegetation. They have no choice. Nor can a cow survive on meat if there is no grass available. By birth itself, they are born with that choiceless life. They can't change it. Whereas human beings enjoy this choice of action, but to exercise the choice is an art. We need to learn. So we have the ability to convert these, transform the negative emotions into positive power. We will analyze each one of those. But very often, we get victimized by our own negative emotions. You find one of the key characteristics of very powerful or progressive leaders of the world is that they know how to emote. They do have negative emotion. For example, Mahatma Gandhiji, an outstanding leader the world has ever produced. Where did Gandhiji start his freedom struggle? Sorry? Where in South Africa? I'm not talking in this place that way, the spot. Railway station, correct. Railway station. When he was pushed out of the train, like any other human being, he also felt that anger, bitterness, hatred. It is very natural for a human being. If you don't feel that, there is something wrong with you. But the difference is, he did not become a victim to those negative emotions. Those negative emotions inspired him. And he came back and fought against the salvation of millions thereafter. He fought against the apartheid. Even though when he got angry, he did not get angry at the police officer who pushed him down. He was angry against the system of apartheid, isn't it? Now, when you analyze your system, when we get angry, or any emotion for that matter, we become personalized. We direct emotion to a person, being. Whereas you find truly developed human beings, they don't succumb to emotions. They use emotion, but emotion transforms itself into a positive power. We analyzed yesterday the composition of a human being. Every human being is a necessary combination of these four equipment. I'll quickly touch upon what we discussed yesterday. Every human being is a necessary combination of four basic equipment. At the outset, you have the body. Beyond the body, within the body are these three dynamic equipments, the mind, intellect, and ego. And beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond the intellect, and beyond the ego is the spirit, the Atman, the pure consciousness, the God principle, which is the enlivening factor, which enlivens the body, mind, and intellect equipments. Now, these equipments themselves becomes enemy to you. So the mind contains innumerable desires, feelings, likes and dislikes, impulses, etc. One of the key contents of your mind is desires. Now, to have desire, nothing wrong, we have it. Of course, from the spiritual, from the ultimate point of view, from the state of God realization, even desire is a great impediment. But desire, if it is uncontrolled, if it is not governed by the intellect, desire take the form of greed, avarice, obsession, craving. If the same desire is controlled or governed by the intellect, desire takes the form of goal, ideal, ambition, aspiration. Now, very often when we pursue a purpose, a mission in life, we think we are pursuing a purpose. It's far from it. Very often we are merely chasing our greed. So if the desire is given a proper direction, that desire will not agitate you. It will not bring about mental agitation or stress and strain. Only if it is uncontrolled, it is detrimental. Not only that, these uncontrolled desires manifests or gets modified into a series of negative emotions. There are two factors that you need to be extremely cautious of within. That is, your desires, uncontrolled desires and uncontrolled ego. Both can modify into a series of negative emotion. We spent a lot of time discussing yesterday the ego and its benevolent effect and a series of manifestations or modifications. If the ego is not governed by the intellect, it manifests as arrogance, self-importance. Similarly, just as the ego, just as the desire, ego also, if it is controlled by the intellect, it takes a form of self-esteem, self-worth, or self-confidence, followed by humility. It takes a person of self-esteem to be humble, down to earth. If the same ego is not controlled, it is susceptible to a series of modification. Our ego can modify into a series of negative emotion. What are some of the negative emotion ego manifests as? Your ego, if it is not governed, it can manifest as undue pride, become boastful. To be proud is nothing wrong. Let's say you achieved a lot of success in your field of activity and you're happy, you're proud about it, not undue pride. Or let's put it this way. Let's say your son stood first in the university. As a father, as parents, you're proud about it, isn't it? But that doesn't mean that you're boastful. But if that pride, when you compare yourself with somebody else and due to your merit, you arrogate it to yourself, then it becomes undue pride, boastful. It's a feeling of superiority due to one's own merit. Ego can manifest as envy, a feeling of discontentment at the success and progress of others. We spoke about it yesterday. Our ego does not allow us to see somebody else's success. The moment you find somebody else is more progressive than you, your ego takes a form of envy. That's when you try to pull the other people down. Detrimental. A feeling of discontentment. Your ego can manifest as fear, a sense of insecurity, of loss or insecurity of being overpowered, especially in the corporate world. You find the senior executives, people who are in the leadership position, they don't really educate or train or impart their skill or ability to the junior because they are scared that junior will overpower their position, isn't it? Hmm? Insecurity, fear of being overpowered. Ego can manifest as fear. Your ego can modify as rudeness. Hmm? You show disrespect or insult to those people who are worthy of worship, worthy of respect. You don't give that due consideration. Look down upon this. Your ego can manifest as vanity. Vanity is when you seek admiration, other people's admiration through ostentation. Hmm? By showing off what you have. You find people ostentatiously display their wealth. They ostentatiously display their power. And if you go to the West, they ostentatiously display their body also. Don't they? Show off. Ostentatious display, vanity. It's a terrible state of mind, seeking other people's admiration, other people's attention by showing off your material assets. You find the society is happening, you know. What are some of the areas you find people become ostentatious? Wealth. How do they display their wealth? Hmm? Spot on, weddings. Correct. Hmm? You find families who are just managing to, live their life for weddings, or even wealthy people, of course. They squander a lot of money. For what? To impress the other people, isn't it? They make sure that they hire some of the most exotic venues, very expensive venue, and the decorations and all kinds of things they do, isn't it? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm only analyzing the human psychology. For what? Isn't it? And the same parents, they don't spend time and resources or money to educate the young couple who's getting married. Hmm? It's a great challenge. They're very contented, spending a lot of money on wedding expenses and all that. It's a very powerful or very highly technical art, the institution of marriage. And we heard last year, was it last year or year before last? The most expensive Indian wedding. Let's not go there. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, isn't it? I mean, for the person, maybe peanuts. But the point is, we don't have to go thus far. You'll find in our own society, ostentatious display, manifestation. See, some people do it very innocently. They don't realize what's happening, the psychology. Vanity, seeking admiration through ostentation. And not only that, see, I've heard parents complain about the children. These days, teenagers, by the time they are 15, 16, they need cell phone. And what do? They go to college, and somebody else has got a better cell phone than the person has got. The person could feel envy. Display. Parents complain that the children need cell phone, while the parents themselves don't realize what they're doing. What is the toys that parents like to show off? Expensive car. They do all that. They only complain about the children, the youth showing off. So vanity, ego can manifest as vanity, ostentatious display. Your ego can manifest as anger, vengeance. You retaliate when your ego is provoked or challenged. Very difficult to withhold it. Detrimental. A lot of conflict arises because of that. Your ego can manifest as calumny, malicious, slanderous talk, gossip, ill talk about the other people. And it is very, very entertaining. Very, very entertaining pastime to talk ill about others. Gossip. Isn't it? And some people are expert in that. And they do a lot of research also to do that. Isn't it? They do. Huh? Where do they research? They buy gossip magazines. You give them a value-based literature, they don't have time. They're very busy. Why? Household chores, children, husband, everybody keep them occupied. The moment it comes to reading a magazine, gossip magazines, I don't know what are the gossip magazines, but there are plenty. And they have to go through every bit of it, because they have to gather information to talk about. Talk about things which are least concern their life. Isn't it? Malicious, slanderous talk, and it's very, very exciting. And invariably, when people gossip, they don't talk good things about other people. If at all they talk about good things, they talk about something nice and they devalue it. Ego manifests as calumny, malicious, slanderous talk. See, when people gossip, the attitude is that I'm something better than them. That's the basic psychology when they gossip, when they condemn people. Your ego can manifest as hypocrisy, camouflage your weakness to impress others. To impress people. They do a lot of things. Like I said, people spend money on expensive stuff to impress, and they call it status. Is that what they say? Status symbol. You know the definition of status. You buy things that you don't need with the money that you don't have to impress people that you don't like. And you call it status. See, I don't know if I told you yesterday, when we get into that attitude of vanity or hypocrisy to impress other people, remember, nobody in the world you can impress. Isn't it? Two types of people. People of substance, people of some caliber. People of substance, you can't impress them by the external paraphernalia, can you? They won't look at what clothes you are wearing or what shoe you are wearing, what car you are driving. They don't even worry whether you wear clothes or not. They will x-ray through and find out what kind of human being you are, what kind of character you have. You can't impress them by that. There is another set of people who will be impressed by your external paraphernalia, but they are the people who are envious about you. They will look at what you wear, what you drive, where you live, all this external paraphernalia, but behind the mind it's envy. So whom are we impressing? You're wasting our time. So ego modifies or manifests into a series of negative emotions. Not only that, our desires also, uncontrolled desires, also modify into a series of negative emotion. Either desire or ego. Let's analyze how desire manifests as ego. We all have desires in our subconscious realm. Desires manifest as emotions, beg your pardon. See, the root of emotions, negative emotions, are our own desires and ego, the two factors. Let's see how desire. In our subconscious realm, we have what we call as vasanas. Vasanas are the seed of thought. It is the inherent urge. It is the inner attitude, inner aptitude, tendency or propensity towards the world. In Sanskrit we call it vasanas. Vasanas are the inherent tendency. It is the seed of thought. When these vasanas begin to manifest, it first manifests as thoughts in your intellect. First. Here is a young boy, a teenager, who sees people smoking. He sees advertisement of the cigarette. And when he sees people smoking, he gets a thought, very innocent, powerless, weak thought. What thought? Why not I take a puff and see what it is like? Just a thought, innocent thought. Now when you get that thought, you have a choice, either to nip the thought in the bud or to encourage it, nourish it. But the challenge is, if the thought is negative, if the thought is indulgent, if the thought is detrimental, it gives you a lot of joy to think about it. It gives you a strange pleasure. If the thought is something noble, something positive, something charitable, the thought does not sustain in your mind. I repeat, if the thought is indulgent, it gives you a quick pleasure, it remains in your mind over and over again. If the thought is a noble thought, charitable thought, let's say the same boy gets a thought, why not on a Sunday go to a charitable institution, an orphanage or something, spend few hours to help out. A charitable thought surface in the mind, but before you realize the thought disappear. Noble thought does not retain in your mind, but the negative thought remain in your mind over and over again. You fan it, nurture it, nourish it. Eventually the thought gain momentum and the thought develops into desire. Where? In your mind. All right.